He was sentenced over mass prison break which took place in 2011 during the revolution which ousted his predecessor Hosni Mubarak. He was charged with colluding with groups like Lebanon's Hezbollah and Hamas, which is in Gaza, to instigate the massive jailbreak. Over 100 other defendants in the same case were also sentenced to death along with Morsi. In another case of espionage, Mohammed Morsi and 35 other defendants, including senior members of the Muslim Brotherhood, were charged colluding with other groups like the Iranian Revolutionary Guards to bring chaos to Egypt. This is not the first sentence against Mohammed Morsi, who appeared in court Saturday wearing blue uniforms given to defendants once they have been sentenced. He was sentenced last month to 20 years in jail for violence that took place during his 1 year in office in 2012, in which he was charged with inciting his supporters to murder at least 2 people outside his presidential palace. With all these jail and death sentences against Mohammed Morsi and leading members of his group, some backlash are expected on the streets from the Muslim Brotherhood, which has been banned here in Egypt. The death sentences have been referred to Egypt's Grand Mufti, and final verdict will be issued on June 2nd. In the meantime, 3 judges were killed in an attack on the Al Arish Rafah International Road on Saturday as they were heading to a North Sinai court. Even though the attack is not yet claimed by any group, speculations arrive that it could be part of the anticipated backlash of the verdict. From Cairo, Egypt, Wazir Zayan, NTA News.
Morsi was, of course, ousted from power this summer in a military-backed coup. Since then, his Islamist supporters have staged protests calling for his reinstatement. In turn, the military-backed interim government cracked down on the group, throwing thousands in jail and recently designating the Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Morsi faces a slew of other charges, including fraud and a conspiracy to commit terrorism. If convicted, some of his charges could carry the death penalty. For Newsy, I'm Elizabeth Hagedorn, Multiple Sources, A Broader View. One year ago, he was serving as Egypt's first democratically elected president. Wednesday, Mohammed Morsi was to stand trial for murder. He and 14 others are charged with inciting the killing of protesters during these demonstrations outside Cairo's presidential palace in December of 2012. Charges his supporters say are politically motivated. Authorities say bad weather prevented Morsi from traveling to the courtroom, and they've adjourned the trial until next month. Still, critics argue the trial was delayed for another reason. Next week, Egypt is due to vote on a national referendum. A referendum Morsi supporters in the Muslim Brotherhood have already said they'll boycott. As the Los Angeles Times notes, a show of renewed defiance from Morsi could have served to energize his beleaguered followers. His original trial date in November, after all, adjourned after intense riots made courtroom proceedings impossible.
The strategy of the Muslim Brotherhood is to make the situation as unstable as possible in order to really frustrate the military-led government's efforts to say, look, we have stability, we have security.
Morsi was, of course, ousted from power this summer in a military-backed coup. Since then, his Islamist supporters have staged protests, calling for his reinstatement. In turn, the military-backed interim government cracked down on the group, throwing thousands in jail and recently designating the Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Morsi faces a slew of other charges, including fraud and a conspiracy to commit terrorism. If convicted, some of his charges could carry the death penalty. For Newsy, I'm Elizabeth Hagedorn, multiple sources, a broader view.